The Death Guard Fly-Blown Host Detachment overview is what we're going to be covering in this video. We're going to be looking at exactly how this detachment works and exactly what you need to do in order to get your Death Guard minis onto the table and getting the most from this detachment. Coming up is going to be an overview of the brand new detachment that Games Workshop have been releasing for Warhammer 40,000. We're going to look at whether this detachment is going to be a competitive choice, whether it's going to be one that's more flavorful and narrative, and maybe something that you might want to consider trying yourself, or alternatively, what you need to know and look out for if you're going to be playing against some of these new detachments. Now, to take things a little bit further on our members page, and if you want to become a YouTube member, the link's going to be in the description. You are going to get a list for this detachment, something that's super competitive, super flavorful, and we're going to make the most of what we can do with this detachment. Now, as we always say, we will try and help you use the models that you own, and we're going to give you some top combos that you can introduce into your list to really make the most of them. Now, not only that, but you're also going to get loads of additional members content, whether it's our live members lounge where you can get your questions answered, or even dictate our games that we play on streams on Fridays. And on our masterclass series, we go one step further. We show you the list, we show you how to deploy it, and we also show you some advanced tactics. And the best thing about that is that you're going to understand exactly how every single faction plays in the game of Warhammer 40,000, so you don't get caught out at the tabletop. We're all about helping you feel like you're able to compete at the table, and knowing all that information is going to be one of those steps to ensure that you don't get gotcha momented. So enjoy this detachment overview, and we really hope and look forward to your feedback and some of the best ways to play this detachment.
It's time to take a look at the Fly-Blown Host, the Death Guard detachment for the Grotmas calendar from Games Workshop, and I am joined with the one and only Dave. Dave, thank you for joining me.
Good to see you, George.
It's honestly amazing to get you down here and to talk everything Death Guard, because obviously as a channel we don't really do much on Death Guard. So we've brought you in with your expertise, and we're just going to run through this detachment and see what Death Guard have got now, right?
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. As the co-host of Disgustingly Resilient,
exactly.
we only talk Death Guard, so thank you for the invite down to the lovely new studio as well.
I know, the new studio, dude. So
really good.
But let's talk Death Guard. So obviously we've got a new detachment rule. What is the detachment rule?
So detachment is Fly-Blown Host, and the new detachment rule is Venomous Haze, and what that does is that gives us infantry only, gives us Scout 5 and Stealth.
Okay. For
all infantry units. Now, you don't get that if you start embarked in a Rhino, so no sneakily kind of scout moving that Rhino, but you know, everything else infantry-wise, you're going to get it.
So what's the impact this is going to have on the army overall?
So I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think versus Plague Company, the previous detachment, is which is pretty much I'm going to come out and I'm going to kill you. This one is very much I am going to have tons of infantry bodies on the board, and I'm going to be very hard to kill. And you're basically going to have to come and get the points off me.
Right, okay.
I think that's the kind of main difference, and it's a bit of a mindset shift, I think, for Death Guard players, but a really good one.
Do you think this is going to be competitively taken over the other one, or is it a bit too early to say?
It could be a bit too early to say. What I would say is that the community has been playing this Plague Company for over a year. So this is a really good chance to get a refresh view of Death Guard. And I do definitely think there's some 5-0s in this.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's found it yet, but but it's still super early days. But I definitely think it's in there. I think this is going to cause problems for a lot of armies.
Yeah, I think overall, though, like this is the same with every detachment, right? There's a lot of armies that don't have a codex yet, so they're having a brand new way of playing the army. So it's just unlocking that and trying to move away from your mindset already of playing that army, right?
Yeah, and I think the other really important thing probably to get out of the way early is that this is not stacking on top of -1 save or -1 ballistic skill, weapon skill. Like that is not. That's why I think everybody lost their minds a little bit with that. But this is a different bit. So you're not sticking objectives anymore. So you're not like don't run off them. Like, this is get on the objectives and hold them down.
Okay, right, interesting. Well, we obviously have enhancements, right? So this is going to help us boost our characters. What enhancement have we got to start with?
So we've got a few. We have Droning Chorus for 15 points. And what this does is this gives your weapons assault. Now, what's interesting, if you start to combine that in with another unit, for example, is let's say you've got some Death Guard Terminators starting on the line, and you go first, well, you can then scout 5 forwards. You could then advance, and if you've got an enemy infiltrating unit or something, you know, that you managed to move, obviously outside of 9 when you kind of did your scout,
of course.
but then you got to move into them, and they're within 12, you can then flame them.
Right, and obviously you have a lot of devastating flamer weapons with Death Guard, don't you? So that's quite good.
Or if you've dropped in some Blight Lords, for example, the combi weapons in half range are basically getting 2 shots each, and those are devastating on 4s against infantry.
Yes.
So being able to move up and advance and then shoot those.
True.
And if you wrap that up with a Lord of Virulence, you're re-rolling the wound roll as well.
Right, well, what's the next one?
Next one is, I'm just going to make sure I read this correctly, is Insectile Murmuration. So this is going to be re-roll wound rolls of 1. So that's for the units. That's 20 points. So it's still quite a pricey one. But actually, you know, if that's a Death Shroud unit going in, of course, they're hitting on 2s, usually wounding on 2s because of strength 8 -1. But just to make sure you get those through.
Right.
But that also can be used to pick up stuff, you know, kind of across the board, whether that's on Plague Marines or stuff. So you know, it's just a nice, kind of nice boost to damage.
And where could you see this best used? Like, what characters is going to be going on? Do you reckon?
I would probably put that onto something like, you could put it on a Lord of Contagion who's attached to a Death Shroud unit again. So you get then 4 rerolls to hit, and then you get reroll 1s to wound. Now, Mortarion can give you rerolls to wound, 1s to wound, if within 6.
Right.
But you know, he can't be everywhere. So actually, this is a way to get it in 2 locations.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are running him, so that's quite nice.
Yeah.
But also, you know, Plague Marines can carry a lot of melee weapons. So that's it's quite useful there too.
Okay.
So there's a few locations it can be used.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the next one?
Next one is Rejuvenating Swarm. Now, this was quite funny because I'm sure the entire community, like me, where my brain got faster than my eyes read the piece when you put it on a Demon Prince.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, a Demon Prince on for T11, regenerating wounds at the end of every phase. He's not infantry.
Okay,
Can't
so
do it.
Infantry only.
Yeah, don't worry. Right. You're not going to see that on the table.
Right, okay.
I then carried on reading it. I was like, okay. So basically, this is at the end of every, like a Beast of Nurgle.
Right.
At the end of every phase, regenerate all wounds.
Okay.
So pretty good, but it can go on an infantry character only.
Right. And
so you probably want to put it on your Terminator characters, I would say. So probably, I think current thinking is maybe the Death Guard Sorcerer, because on a 1 you're going to mortal wound yourself if it has this check. So actually, at the end of the phase, you just get all the wounds back. Yeah, that's probably a good use. But equally, a Lord of Contagion, who, when you wound him, does mortal wounds back. And actually, to then go back up to full health again, and then you've got to potentially keep going into him and him doing maybe more mortal wounds back. Let alone keeping him on the field and up to full strength is probably a good thing. So
100%.
I would say those are a couple of examples of where you could put it.
No, definitely. It seems like, I think that's like a Death Guard thing, though, right? It's like that being resilient and also just like healing, like making sure they're not meant to be easy to kill. So.
No, absolutely. I quite like the idea of, like, you know, you kind of hacking into this character and random bile and stuff coming out and that hurting you, and him just healing up again is quite cool.
Okay, what is the last one then?
The last one is called Plague Veil. This is really interesting. So the other thing I say a lot at the start of my matches with people, apart from no movement shenanigans, is we don't have lone op or anything like that. We do have lone op now.
Oh, okay.
So the most expensive one, 25 points. What this lets you do is put it on a character, and if that character attaches to a unit, that unit gets loaned up with an 18. The probable place I'd put that right now at this stage is on the Tallyman. So he could either sit in your home field with an 18-inch bubble of loan up, meaning you can't indirect him off. And in your command phase, you get to roll 2 dice, and on 7 up, you get your extra command point. So he could either sit at home, doing a little bit of screening, being untouchable from indirect across the board and making you CP, or you could stick in with a unit of Plague Marines. He gives them +1 to hit in shooting and combat, and that unit is lone up 18. So you could move that out, scout 5 out, jump onto a point, like back here, sort of kind of fair distance away, works on certain maps, and they're not getting indirect. And then your opponent's going to have to come closer to them or try and generate an angle, which may make them exposed to something else. Getting
the lone op ability within 18 and stuff is actually fantastic, right?
It's really good.
Yeah.
And especially as this has been one of the things that we've never had.
Yeah.
So this is where I think you asked at the beginning, how do I feel about it? We're starting to get some tools that we've never ever had before. So I think it's going to open up new ways.
Feels strange, right?
Honestly, I'm going to have to constantly remember what it is that I'm going to be. Oh, I have got lone op. Oh, I have got this. So
exactly. You're not playing honest Warhammer anymore.
Not anymore. No, we're playing sneaky Warhammer.
Exactly.
Like every other faction.
Exactly. It's a level playing field now.
Yeah.
Right. So, but we've got stratagems. Let's move on to them next. So, what is the first stratagem you want to take a look at?
Once again, I will just check down these because they've got some interesting names. This is nauseating paroxysms. So it's at the start of the fight phase. Okay. And it's basically, so all of these, by the way, I'll caveat, are infantry only. Right. Like the detachment rule is infantry only, which makes sense. So it's target 1 Death Guard infantry unit from your army within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. And basically, you select one enemy unit within engagement range, and they must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1.
So the subtracted 1, I think, is the kicker, right? Because if you didn't have that, it would just be a bit of a pointless stratagem spend. Whereas most armies are sitting on the cusp of 6 and 7 leadership. So pushing that back a bit more starts to decrease the odds of them passing, right?
Correct. And where we can make it even worse is if you attach the Noxious Brightbringer character to a Plague Marine unit, he makes it another -2 to leadership. So you charge a Plague Marine unit on a point with this guy attached, and we pop that strat, 1 CP, you're -3 leadership. Now, looking at it, I think that means that basically 80% of units fail that.
Oh yeah, easy.
So you get no strats, and even if you kill me off of the point, you don't hold it.
It's such a mind game. Yeah, now you've said that. Like if I'm the opponent playing against that, and I've got a card that requires me to go and take an objective or do something on an objective, but that's kind of an area which I can't interact here.
Yeah, and I think also if at the start of a game across the table, I said to you, if you come and charge this unit, you're going to be, I'm going to spend 1 CP and you're going to be -3 leadership and take a battle shock test.
Yeah.
I think you're probably likely to just go, I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Which from a Death Guard fan's very sneaky kind of way, you could be like, that's a way of you kind of having that threat and maybe not even having to spend a CP.
Yeah, that's massive. That's massive. Yeah, when you start bringing in combos for stratagems, that's where you start to see the full effectiveness of these things used, right?
Yeah, and I think this is where I personally would like to see Death Guard go in future, like into Codex time, is this increasingly debilitating play.
Yeah.
I don't want us to be faster. I don't want us to be like to do more damage than we do potentially because we're already quite heavy hitting.
Yeah.
But I like this idea of just like disabling abilities and disabling kind of morale and stuff like that.
We've had this conversation before, haven't we? Like, just having your army feel a bit more like they should, like spreading sickness and disease, and like that should be a debilitating effect on your opponent.
Yeah, and I think that's an example of that.
Yeah, 100%.
Quite good.
Yeah, next one.
Next one, also 1 CP, Vermin Cloud. So this is in the fight phase, and it's when a 1 Death Guard infantry unit has not been selected to fight this phase. And so until the end of the phase, this is a 6-inch pile-in and consolidation.
That's massive, that is, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you make there's lots of interesting things to this, but where I think if you take something like a 20 unit of Poxwalkers, if that thing is like, you know, managed to get up the field because of a scout and a move and an advance, like even Poxwalkers can get quite far on that.
100%, yeah.
You know, if you charge into something with a relatively good charge and you start to wrap it already, and there's 20 models in that unit, so it's very easy to kind of block yourself out on the front. And then you go, right, here we go. I'm now going to pile in 6 and then consolidate 6 afterwards. You can tag a huge amount of enemy units.
That's massive.
And actually create quite a screen, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And also it means that people who often, you know, might think, oh, well, I've got this unit there and the Death Shroud are going to hit that. That's fine because my other unit's more than 3 inches away. Well, that unit behind is now in danger.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is, with those big bases, is separate them a bit so you can't get in. Move block yourself, come around the side, and then go another 6 inches into another unit.
That's horrific, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like, so good.
So that starts to become kind of, I think, once again, movement wins this game, doesn't it? Movement wins 40k.
You win, you lose or die in your movement phase, right? So
so I think hopefully some of these, as we're starting to go through these, you can see where it's giving Death Guard kind of a new way to play, and it's much more about movement.
Yeah, which is good. Which is good. Yeah. I think it means, as you as the Death Guard player as well, you said you was playing very honest before, like there wasn't much like shenanigans. Well, you get a bit more tactical finesse in the game with these stratagems, which is nice to see. Yeah,
and also I think you know, it's like you're at the table and you have the honest conversation with your opponent, and you say, look, these are the things to watch out for from a strats perspective. In Play Company, it's 2. It was more AP and sustained, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
This one, I think all 6 of them are things to tell your opponent about.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's a big conversation before a game, basically.
I think I'm going to print out something like.
Here's a help sheet. Right, what's the next one, dude?
Next one is called Eye of the Swarm. So this is 1 CP as well, as we said. Shooting phase. So Death Guard infantry unit that hasn't been selected to shoot. And basically, this is super interesting, and I'm looking forward to this one. This lets you turn all the ranged weapons in your unit into pistol.
Right, okay, so what significance is that's massive just hearing it, but what significance does this have in terms of data sheets?
Okay, so I'll use Blight Lords as an example.
Yeah.
So let's say that you charge a Blight Lord brick of 10, which I now think have got a bit of play. This will be the first time I've put them on the table in 10.
Amazing.
And they go into a unit. Now they're not Death Shroud, so they're not going to clear necessarily a unit out, but that's 10 plus character, 2 up, 4 up, 3 wound bodies.
Yeah.
That are then going to go in with 40 attacks. and you know, can weigh into a load of units.
Yeah.
Let's say then your opponent heroics in or something else and just keeps them in combat, and then it comes back to my turn. Well, I've now got 6 combi bolters with 2 shots each, with 2 Reaper autocannons with 8 shots each.
Yeah.
All the combi bolters are anti-infantry 4-up devastating wounds, and then you've got 2 flamers in there. And then so what you do is you go, oh, 1 CP, I'm going to shoot my way out of combat, and now I'm going to charge to another nearby unit. It
just allows you to be a lot more efficient then, right? And get the most out of that unit.
So imagine if you do then using the previous strat we talked about. So let's say you shoot yourself out of combat there, and then you charge that unit, and then you pop the 6-inch pile in and consolidate. Suddenly that Blight Lord unit has gone from being trapped in combat to getting out of combat, and then being a charge and another 6 inches further down the board.
So
that's I think that's a really interesting.
It's really interesting.
It's not the only use, but I think that's a good example of a way to bring a unit back into play that's been missing.
100%. And like you said, like before you were quite a static army. Now you've got this movement plays, which you're not actually using the movement phase, funnily enough, for a lot of this.
No,
you're
exactly.
using other phases to move. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's really good, dude.
So next one is Droning Horror. This one is in the shooting phase, 1 CP, as we talked about. It is Death Guard infantry unit that's not yet selected to have shot this phase. And basically, until that, you can when you make a ranged attack, you can re-roll a hit roll of 1.
Okay.
Gets better.
Right.
in half range, re-roll the hit roll.
Okay. Right.
So I'll use Blight Lords again. You've dropped down a Blight Lord unit from Deep Strike within 9 of an enemy unit. You have a Lord of Virulence with them, whose inbuilt ability is re-roll the wound roll on ranged. You then pop 1 CP. You've now got re-roll the hit roll, re-roll the wound roll. With 12 combi bolters on 4s, and then 4s devastating wounds into infantry.
For
that
1
converts
CP.
12 shots really heavily into kind of 8 devastating wounds.
Absolutely.
And then you've got the autocannons, and then you've got the flamers, all re-rolling hoots and wounds.
Very efficient.
So that once again has to be used on infantry, but even a Plague Marine unit of 10 can have something like 3 plasma guns, 2 melter guns, 2 plague sprayers. You know, it can have, then it's got bolt guns, and all of that can be re-rolled.
The majority of your army's infantry though, right? So like, obviously you've got your big hits like Morty, and you've got like your Plague Burst drones and stuff like that as well, but the majority of it is going to be your Plague Marines and your Terminators overall, so. No,
so one more for, it doesn't really affect Death Shot too much because of flamers, but yeah, there's it's another nice
to have, right?
Yeah. Give you once again more kind of usage to kind of get some range damage out.
100%. What's the next one?
The next one is called Innovating Onslaught. So this is effectively, I think this is this is Mortal Wounds on the charge.
Right. Okay.
So this is basically select a Death Guard infantry unit, and it's 1 enemy unit that's within engagement range, excluding monsters or vehicles.
Okay.
And it's basically you charge that unit, you roll dice for every model, not unit, model in engagement range. So 2nd rank, I'm not going to get to do this.
Right, sure.
But there is a potential for the extra piling. Obviously with another strat. And you get +1 if the models, the unit is not Poxwalkers or Cultists, because they're small.
Sure.
And therefore you can get them in, and there's more of them. You basically effectively on a 4-up with Terminators, Plague Marines, or a 5-up with Poxwalkers or Cultish, you do Mortal Wounds.
Okay, so I think this is really nice to do because you can grenade right beforehand. And then you can do these more. So
I mean, we kind of get it's, you know, you can get a bit CP hungry with some of this stuff, but you know that's what the Teleman's there for. It's to hopefully get you that extra CP.
I see
and
now.
If you discard a mission at the end of a turn, perhaps potentially another CP.
Sure.
So you could set yourself up actually for quite a big damaging turn. But you're absolutely right. You could grenade, you could charge, you could do more Mortal Wounds.
I think, like you said as well, this detachment's completely new. There's so many new toys and things that you can do with this army. It actually, like all these stratagems have a place, which is good to see.
And it is to a maximum 6. So like a lot of other strats are, so you can't just turn 20 Poxwalkers and do. But it does give you the option to get that, you know, that Death Guard doesn't have a huge amount of access to Mortal Wounds, dishing them out, apart from maybe Typhus's Eater Plague. So this is a nice way to potentially, that CP burn might be worth just killing that last Terminator or getting that one annoying character out the way.
Absolutely. I mean, it might mean that you can like kill 2 models in 1 unit and pile in with a 6-inch strap potentially to get onto the main target that you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
What's the next one?
The last one is called Mephitic Invigoration. So this is, they've all got great names, haven't they?
Honestly, the names in these detachments, like in all of them, have just been absolutely golden.
So 1 CP again.
Yeah.
And this is basically your opponent's shooting phase or just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. So this is a Death Guard infantry unit and a Mephitic Blight Hauler, which is the demon engine, the kind of, you might have seen this, the kind of short little vehicle that's got the multi-melter on one side, missiles on the other, and the kind of teeth on the front. So they have to be within 6 of that model, but if they are, then you're getting the bodyguard effect, which is the -1 to wound. Basically, if it's greater than the toughness of the characteristic of the model. So if it's Poxwalkers, then you're like anything over T4, sorry, strength 4, is going to be -1 to wound.
That's massive.
So you could have Poxwalkers that have stealth. You know, kind of, and then are getting a shot at and are going to be -1 to wound and have a 5-up feel no pain.
Yeah, I think if you start to you just have this swarm of bodies, right? It's just like very difficult because -1 to wound on these swarms. We've seen it in Tyranids as well. It's massive.
It's huge.
Yeah,
the dice can really go against you, kind of easily on that.
100%.
And I think what's interesting is these things are called. They have an ability called Tank Hunter, which is +1 to wound versus vehicles. So weirdly, I think in this detachment though, you're like they're not. They're actually not. They're not tank killers.
Not encouraged, right?
No. What they should actually be is scoring pieces.
Yeah.
And they should be kind of like tucked in, maybe behind a ruin. And then when your infantry goes out, staying tailed back within 6, perhaps. You're then getting -1 to be wounded.
Yeah. 100%.
So you can still throw them out, give them the extra benefit, and not expose your unit, which is giving them the benefit.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think there's, I think that's quite interesting. I think they can do multiple jobs. They can sit on a point. They can also do an action, and because this is passive. You know, it's just within 6. They can also give out the -1 to wound.
They're there as like a supporting piece rather than in different versions being more of an aggressive piece.
Yeah, and I would say that overall in this, certainly when I've looked at it, is I'd actually take this detachment almost entirely infantry anyway.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be chucking vehicles in because you're not getting the benefits. But these guys, they've given it a reason to put these little dudes in who are 10-inch move. So really fast. Bases aren't that big, and if you do need them to shoot, they've got 2 multi-melters, a crack or a frag missile, a 3-shot bile spurt, like kind of spew kind of attack, and they're T10. So sorry, T9, but they're 5-up invuln. So
but this is it. They're not guaranteed kills, are they? And they're there. I don't think they're going to be the central piece, but they're there as a supporting piece, which is really good to have.
Yeah, I wouldn't be throwing them out onto places, but like I said, I can see them tucked behind a building and giving that range out to you know, just to threaten your opponent with. Well, if you want to shoot that, like I could make -1 to wound as well.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
And stacking with stealth, like you said, is
it's great.
-1 to hit, -1 to wound, good combo.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, we've looked at the whole detachment now. In terms of units, what are some of the spotlight units do you think that are going to work really well in this detachment?
So, and might be controversial, but Blight Laws are back for me.
Yeah.
I haven't. I've got as you know, I only play Death Guard. I have I think 14,000 points of including Metal Allies, and I've had 30 Blight Law Terminators that haven't left the shelf since 9th edition. The end of 9th.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
So, but now I can see easily running at least one brick of 10. I think those guys are, you know, scouting, moving, advancing. If you take something like Search and Destroy with a central objective, I mean, you can put 10 Blight Law Terminators on the middle turn 1.
Yeah.
Easy, no problem. And then put, you know, and previously you could have scouted out some cultists, got them on there, and advanced, and then penned your opponent in behind the other opposing wall, and then put 10 Terminators on the middle. And then spread out for the others and just gone, all right, well, choose what you want to shoot.
But like you said as well, they're not going to be trapped in the middle, right? So
no, if you didn't charge them, they're going to shoot their way out.
Still shoot their way out.
Yeah.
You could put the Blight Hall or the drone or whatever behind them and get -1 to wound potentially, because most things shooting Terminators are higher than their
stealth already.
And they're stealth already.
So you've got 30 wounds without a character of 2 up, 4 up. -1 to hit, -1 to wound for 1 CP, sat on the middle. And if you charge them and think you're just going to hold them up, then they're going to shoot their way out of combat and then kill you in melee afterwards.
It's going to take a lot to chew through that unit, basically, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think they're definitely back.
Yeah.
I think Poxwalkers as well. Like I would not be surprised if you start to see 60 Poxwalkers on the table. Once again, you can flood the board with bodies.
Yes.
You know, you can throw them out on 2 sides and then keep 120 unit to screen your deployment zone. You would be amazed at how far you can screen. Even one of the diagonal deployments.
Yes.
20 Poxwalkers with 2x2, like
bone formation across.
Bone formation across.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, okay, your big unit is not going to have enough room to land in my backfield.
Yeah, they do their job, right?
And then, but in the meantime, 40 more are coming out.
Yeah.
let alone everything else you've got on your list. So you know, you don't mind if you don't really mind if they're visible.
No.
They've got stealth.
If someone wants to shoot them, they're not shooting the other 40 out.
Well, exactly. Right? Yeah. And personally, I think your opponent's going to be more concerned about dealing with
what's in the middle,
and with what reserves it's got is probably helping deal with the mass infantry assault that's going on the table.
Mate, honestly, everything you've told me so far, it does sound very exciting for Death Guard. And in terms of like the new play style and stuff, how do you see this fitting in competitively? Do you think we're going to see this more in terms of the other detachment, or do you think we're going to see it less?
It's a really good question. I would say, like I said at the beginning, I think the other one is Death Guard players have been very used for over a year now of playing Plague Company. Yeah. We've been used to our -1 to save, which I think has been what everyone's taken, I would say, probably 80% of the time. Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a very different way of playing the game. I hope everyone is going to give it a go, because I think it definitely has play, and I definitely think we will see some 5-0s with it at events. Yeah. It's definitely got that. It's just going to be a bit of a mind shift to play a game of board control and just outlasting your opponent with a mass infantry assault. I think what this detachment is not going to do that well is it's not going to deal with vehicles like tanks. Knights are going to be more difficult to deal with. We're not having that extra AP into the equivalent extra AP. So we're not going to be AP3ing all over the place. Armor of Contempt isn't getting offset as easily anymore. So on that front, it's going to be a bit trickier. But your opponent, that's if your opponent teching into that, right? Like they're going to have loads and loads of vehicles. Sure. And you can still field loads of Terminators, so you can still play Custodes Club and tank stuff on 4-ups. Yeah, this is it. I think it's going to be competitive. I absolutely will take this to. I think I'm probably going to take it to LVO. Amazing. I think I'm very much a believer of you've got to trial by fire the stuff. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we've all been given new detachments. Every army's been given a new one. It would be silly not to try it and see how it goes. And you've explained to me all these stratagems and enhancements, and they all have a place. They do. There's not one that I've gone, oh, you're never going to use that or something. Like you've given me an example for every single one of how you could use it. So it definitely seems like it's got legs. And I can't wait to see you and Aidan as well. Well, run it on the tabletop. Yeah, we had a really good discussion about it last night, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting it on the table. Yeah, absolutely. Well, dude, thank you so much for running through that with me. But we are actually going to be running through a competitive list next, right? So we're going to look at your list. That is going to be on the member side of the channel. So if you want to look at that, make sure you become a YouTube member. The link is in the description below. And make sure to go check out Dave's channel, the Disgustingly Resilient Podcast. So make sure you go do that as well. And the link will be in the description. So thank you for joining me, dude. Thanks, George. And yeah, can't wait to see Death Guard on the table. See you later, guys.